Look at this photograph. Really look at it. What do you see? You see magnificent architecture. You see soaring arches, perfect geometric domes, and the skylines that rival modern-day Europe. But look closer. Where are the people? Where are the construction crews? Where are the cranes? Where is the noise of a civilization capable of building this? History tells us these massive stone structures were built by men on horseback, using chisels, pulleys, and wooden scaffolding. They tell us that people who hadn't even invented the light bulb yet managed to construct cathedrals with acoustics so perfect, we still can't replicate them today. What if I told you that's a lie? What if the history regarding the 19th century isn't a record of construction, but a record of discovery? What if these buildings weren't just for living, but were actually machines? Giant wireless power plants left behind by a civilization that was erased from our timeline. Welcome to the ruins of Tartaria and the technology they didn't want you to know about. Let's start with the math, because the math doesn't add up. Take the state capitol buildings in America. We are told that in the mid-1800s, settlers, people who were arriving in covered wagons, fighting for survival, and living in log cabins, decided their first priority was to build massive Roman Greco palaces clad in marble and gold leaf. Think about the logistics. Where did the marble come from? How was it transported thousands of miles without highways or semi-trucks? How did they cut granite with such precision that you can't slide a piece of paper between the blocks? We are talking about a time when the height of technology was the steam engine. Yet, the architectural complexity of these structures surpasses most modern skyscrapers. And then, there's the impossible timeline. Look at the Chicago World's Fair of 1893. They called it the White City. Official history claims this entire neoclassic metropolis, over 200 massive buildings spanning 600 acres, was built in roughly 2 years. 2 years, with temporary materials, plaster and hemp, and then, as soon as the fair was over, they burned it down, or demolished it. Why? Why build the greatest architectural achievement of the century only to destroy it immediately? Unless they didn't build it. Unless they were simply uncovering it, cleaning it up for a grand opening to the new population, before realizing they couldn't maintain the tech, so they destroyed the evidence. This brings us to the most controversial aspect of the Tartarian theory: energy. Look at the roofs of these ancient buildings. What do you see? Iron spires, copper domes, gold-plated bowls on top of towers. Historians tell us these are just decorations or religious symbols, but to an electrical engineer, they look like something else entirely. They look like conductors. The theory suggests that the Tartarian civilization had mastered the extraction of electromagnetic energy from the ether. Free, clean, wireless. The cathedrals weren't places of worship originally. They were power stations. The spires acted as antennas, pulling static electricity from the atmosphere. The massive domes stored the charge. And the rose windows, look at the pattern. That is a cymatic frequency pattern used in magnetrons today. Have you ever noticed that in many of these old castles and mansions, the fireplaces are enormous, yet there are no chimneys, or the chimneys don't connect to the outside? Maybe they weren't burning wood. Maybe those metal backplates in the fireplaces were ionization points, radiating heat wirelessly from the grid. Nikola Tesla didn't invent wireless energy. He rediscovered it. He was trying to tap back into the old grid. The Warden Cliff Tower. It looks exactly like the obelisks and towers we see in the old world photos. But free energy has a problem. You can't meter it. You can't sell it. So what happened? The grid was dismantled. The spires were removed or ground. And the world switched to oil and coal, a fuel source that could be controlled. But if a global empire existed, where did it go? how do you wipe out a civilization that spans the continents? You bury it. Travel to any major historic city, London, Moscow, Paris, New York. Look at the older buildings. Notice how the first floor is often half buried underground. You have windows going directly into the dirt. Why would an architect design a window to look at a wall of soil? Why are there doors that lead to nowhere, cut in half by the sidewalk? Historians call these light wells. They say the streets were raised to accommodate sewage systems. But does that explain why we find entire storefronts, complete with doors and signage, 20 feet below the current ground level? In Moscow, during renovations of the Polytechnic Museum, they dug down. They didn't find foundations. They found another floor and another, with perfect brickwork and arched windows. The evidence points to a catastrophic event, a massive soil liquefaction, or a global deluge of mud that occurred sometime in the mid-19th century. It swallowed the bottom layers of civilization. And when the survivors, or the new settlers, arrived, they didn't dig it out. They just paved over it and called the second floor the ground floor. So, who are we? In this theory, we are not the builders. We are the squatters, the inheritors. Consider the orphan trains phenomenon between 1854 and 1929. Hundreds of thousands of children were transported from East Coast cities to the Midwest. Where were their parents? Why was there suddenly a surplus of children and a shortage of adults? And deeper down the rabbit hole, the incubators. At the World's Fairs, one of the main attractions was incubator babies, rows and rows of infants. Where did they come from? The theory is dark. It suggests a great reset, a repopulation effort after the cataclysm. These children were raised in a world they didn't build, taught a history that was fabricated to explain the ruins around them. They were told the previous civilization was primitive, that we are the pinnacle of evolution. But look around. We look at the pyramids, the Gothic cathedrals, the star forts, and we wonder how they did it. We have iPhones and the internet. But can we build a structure that lasts 1,000 years with perfect geometric alignment to the stars? No. We build with drywall and plastic. The Tartarian theory isn't just about cool buildings. It's about the fragility of truth. If an entire empire, a civilization of global peace and free energy, can be erased from the history books in just 200 years, what else is a lie? Napoleon said, history is a set of lies agreed upon. Maybe it's time we stopped agreeing. Maybe it's time we started looking at the stone. Because paper can burn. Books can be rewritten. But the stone remembers. So next time you walk past an old government building or a cathedral, look at the windows in the ground. Look at the antennas on the roof. And ask yourself, did we really build this? Or did we just find it?